Yo, you wanna meet me in the club? Yo, you wanna meet me downtown? Yo, you wanna meet me in the east? Yo, you wanna meet me in the west?
Hello, everybody. I want to say thanks to Cristal for putting this incredible event together, and thank you all for coming. What an incredible day this has been, huh? Thinking about where we started with all of those incredible, heavy, weighty ethics questions about, AI trying to figure out which pedestrian a car should run over, and then moving on to those big issues about journalism. I feel kind of lucky that I'm here to just talk about how to make art better. I think this is a great opportunity that we have, and I am going to spend the next few minutes talking to you guys about how we're using machine learning and algorithms to make the music ecosystem better for fans, for artists, and for brands that want to be heard. So let me start by talking about our mission a little bit, if we can have the slides. We have this big, audacious idea about letting 1 million creators, 1 million musicians, live off of their art. It's a big idea, and it would be a sea change for the music industry if we can pull this off. Because if you think about it, in the 20th century, probably tens of thousands of musicians were able to monetize their art and live off of it. But as we grow this streaming revolution to scale, there really is the possibility that we could monetize the lives of significantly more creators. And that's the big idea, this unlocking the potential of human creativity. And we're not going to get to that solution without AI being a part of it. So that's really what I want to talk about. We are a mission-driven organization, and that's what we're here to do. And we think about ourselves as kind of the R&D department of the music industry. We arrived at a time when the music industry was in big trouble. It was almost brought to its knees by piracy, and we've used some of the same technology to create a situation where we now have a turnaround that has been great for composers, for writers, for musicians of all sorts. And we're doing the same thing for podcasts, too. But what we start with is we think about the user first. Spotify, we always say the user comes first, data drives everything that we do, and context is critically important. So think about our users. They're connected to us, and they're with us all day long. They're on Spotify using tablets, Android and iOS phones. They have Spotify in their car. They're using this on gaming machines. And we're getting a tremendous amount of data from all of those connections. We're watching every single thing they do, every way they interact. Sometimes during the day, they're using music to amplify an experience, like a workout. Other times, they're using music to regulate their world that they're in, like how they work at the office. And it's this persistent connectivity across all of these devices and platforms that gives us a pretty rich understanding of how they're connecting with us. And the fact is, we have 190 million of them connecting with us on a monthly basis now. So this is starting to create a mountain of data. Actually, it's 21 petabytes of data is what we're sitting on our databases. And we want to be able to query those databases in real time to provide reactions and opportunities for users that you would think would be fairly difficult to do. So just for the 21 petabytes of data, by the way, just to give you a reference, I didn't even know what a petabyte was when I got to Spotify, is more data than Google uses to power Google Maps, Google Street View, and Google Earth combined. So that's what we're dealing with on a daily basis, and it's pretty exciting. So about 10 billion times a month, we put a piece of content in front of a user that they have never seen or heard before. 10 billion moments of discovery every single month. And we do that, to power that, something you obviously couldn't do by hand, we're using a bunch of really interesting algorithms. And we have machine learning in place to get the data that we need in order to provide those kinds of moments of discovery. So we have every one of these users. They're all individuals. We've got a listening profile, basically, that the machines have developed for every single user on Spotify. And we know this is how it feels to them, because when we hear people talking about the service out in the world, they don't say, I went to Spotify or I used Spotify. They say, I opened my Spotify. So we have a bunch of curators, and we have editors, and we have machines that are curating an experience for every one of these users, but they are a participant in that curation. They're directing us. They're reacting to things. And some of it is is intentional, but much of it is passive. And that's where the AI really comes in and helps us. So we understand everything about these users and what their intentions are, what their behaviors are, and what their musical taste looks like. And we understand those profiles well. So we have this machine-powered personalization that we use to do this. It's pretty amazing. I'm going to take you through some of the things that we are able to check and watch and how we use it. And again, I'll say this, we have to be incredibly ethical about the way we use all of that data. Fortunately, we're not the kind of a platform that shares out data like a social network would, but we still have an obligation to use it in a way that is opt-in for the user and is valuable for the experience that they're having. So we want to be like that best friend that you used to have when you were growing up that knew the right music and would whisper in your ear or make you a mixtape. And you'd always say, wow, this guy has such great taste. I love this stuff. How did he know I wanted that? That's who we want to be for 190 million people at a time. So the first thing we do is we look at the catalog. We've got 190 million users. We've got 40 million songs. We have machines that will listen to a pop song in 3 seconds and spit out a beautiful, elegant cloud of data about that song. All kinds of things. Like what we used to know about a song was what genre it was, and at the time there were only about 10 of them. We would know what key it was in, what the tempo was, and we knew who the owner was and who to pay. Now we know all kinds. There's 1,500 micro-genres on Spotify, and we understand how they relate to each other. We also know how the song, the intent, we can look at what's happening to the song in culture. We can see what people are saying about it. So we understand the trajectory that it has in the culture. We understand the danceability of it, the acousticness of it, all kinds of attributes that you would not have thought about before. But all of them become meaningful as you think about creating really kind of specific personal experiences for people. The next thing we do is we look at everything that all of those 190 million people do with every single one of those 40 million songs. So that's everything from they went 10 seconds in and skipped it. Well, how many people did that? Or they fell in love with that song and played it 30 times in a week. That shows us some kind of behavior that looks like a fan, or maybe an obsessive. But we understand what that means. And then there's a few songs that are 19 years old that there are 5,000 people in the world who play once a week and they scrub to a certain part and they play that. I don't know if it's a drum solo. I don't know what it is that they're listening to, but there's something significant about that cohort forming itself and showing itself to us. What we end up getting for every single one of us, and those of you who use Spotify, I think you are unique. Your listening history doesn't look like anybody else's. But there probably are 5 or 10 or 50,000 people whose music profiles correlate fairly closely to yours. To us, they look a lot like you. Now, they may be a 25-year-old in Vietnam or a farmer in Indiana. We don't know exactly who they are, but we just know through our lens, they look a lot like you. So we use those lookalikes to form an advisory class for every single one of us. And that's part of how the algorithms find out what to serve you next. And what we've gotten very good at doing is providing on a daily or a weekly basis a series of algorithmically driven playlists that are personalized, but we think are the exact kinds of music you want to hear. So on a daily basis, we give you daily mixes, 5 or 6 of them. And those mixes are based on what we see you doing with the repertoire. So to answer our friend from Microsoft this morning who said, how do we make sure the algorithms don't ignore that new pop star or that new rock star who just came out who's an independent and is unknown? Because we can see that 30% of your listening is in a category like that, from a repertoire perspective, we can form one of these daily mixes that is that kind of genre specific or that kind of utility specific and give you all kinds of new choices as well as things you love in the same playlist. But the big thing that we are probably known for in this area of discovery is Découverte de la Semaine, as it's called here, right? Discover Weekly. It's our flagship. It's our big promise to every user that on Monday morning at 9 o'clock, we're going to put a playlist for them that has 30 new songs, or 30 songs, they may not be new, 30 songs that we know they have never listened to on Spotify, but we believe they will love. So that gets us to this place where How the hell do we do that? That's where your advisory class comes in. That's where the 10,000 lookalikes who look like you make a huge difference. We look at the 30 songs that have the most momentum in Spotify that you have never heard, that they are playlisting or sharing or listening to a lot, and we rank stack those in order, and we serve them to you on a regular basis. And we think people love it. As a matter of fact, they tell us they love it. We get lots of love mail about that. And when we happen to miss the deadline for some reason, the internet breaks. But where's my Discover Weekly? I can't start my Monday without it. So I want to pivot for a minute and talk about how some brands are starting to use some of the same technology in order to be heard in a way that is as relevant as they can be. Snickers in the UK, well, their global messaging platform right now is pretty fabulous. It's this idea of when you're hungry, you're not you. You know, we notice something's wrong, you're cranky, you're in a bad mood. Clearly you're hungry, you need a Snickers to fix that. They've done a great job with it on television and in display, but we partnered with them to do something in audio that is just fantastic. And we did this in the UK. And where AI came into play here is we looked at the listening histories of people and found people, huge cohorts that loved certain kinds of genres. Like, here are all the people in the UK who love grime. Here are all the people in the UK who only listen to pop. Here are all the people who only listen to rock music. And then in real time, we watched them. And then when this guy who only listens to rock suddenly is playing Beethoven, we made the assumption that something was wrong, and we fed him a custom ad. Here's a video that shows how this worked.
140 million people listen to Spotify every day, and everyone tends to stick to their favorite genre. Occasionally, though, people get the urge to put on something that's completely out of character. Snickers thinks this must be down to hunger, because you're not you when you're hungry. Snickers partnered with Spotify to create the Hunger Spotter. This was the first time ever that an algorithm simultaneously analyzed a user's historical and real-time data. The Hunger Spotter analyzed thousands of songs per day and recognized when someone's music taste deviated from normal. Snickers and Spotify joined forces with award-winning producer Cy Holbert to create personalized songs that suggested people grab a Snickers and get back to being them. Here's a sample of what the Hunger Spotter played to grime fans listening to out-of-character music.
Yo, what you listening to, blood? It's strange, not that we're ones to jar, just out of character. I've got to admit, is this your mum's account? Is this legit? Or is it because you're hungry?
And this is a sample of what the Hunger Spotter played to hungry pop fans.
Okay, these guys didn't even know they were getting ads. They were getting music in the genre they loved. It was an incredible interruption, and it was a hell of a lot of fun. And it's, from a technical standpoint, it's like what we've been saying we wanted to do for years. Find a person in a moment with a behavior that you want to interrupt in a way that is delightful for them. So we were right on brand for the way Snickers wants to appear in the marketplace. The next one I'm going to show you moves the AI conversation into the creation part of the world. Now we're talking about Alex the Kid, who is a really well-known and well-loved music producer who produced Imagine Dragons and has won walls of Grammys and awards in his studio. And he partnered with IBM around a project where he had an artist in the studio and he wanted to find a new artist, an unsigned, unknown artist who would be perfect to match with the artist he was working with to do a duet. So we gave Spotify data on 1,000 unsigned artists in the genre he wanted to IBM's Watson, and Watson did natural language processing of the lyrics that those artists had written, the social commentary that was occurring in their social spaces, and made some decisions about who the best match would be. And this is what happened. I'll show you a piece of this.
The music business has totally changed in the last couple of years, and it operates by completely different rules now. And technology is the thing that's pushing all this stuff forward.
Back in the day, exposure was based on feet on the street, people out in clubs and bars and different scenes, and word of mouth. Now you have that global megaphone where everybody's sharing information. At Spotify, we track 1,600 micro-genres of music. You've got over 2.5 million artists a keystroke away. Staying on top of it is one of the biggest challenges. Being able to use this data to find an artist and connect them with a legendary producer, that was exactly the kind of thing that we've always been trying to do.
So we're using IBM Watson to shape the way in which producers can find artists through social media.
I'm super excited about her. I love her ambition and what she's trying to do. She plays, she writes everything. She really is an old soul. She's definitely someone I think could be around in 10 or 20 years. We have an idea of a song called Go. When her started to write the lyrics to the chorus and it started to take shape, it made more and more sense to try and find artists to add more texture to it. We really needed another voice to make this song great.
For us here at IBM, what we're doing with Watson is helping Alex to narrow down his search for his next artist. We're going to be using an artificial intelligence-powered search to look through all the emotional data for a huge amount of artists on Spotify and the way they're expressing themselves online.
Watson can take my tastes and bring things to my attention that make sense for me.
Over a period of time, Watson starts to recognize the lexicography of music.
So as the song starts to take shape, so does my search get more refined.
As well as recognizing what it means when Alex says, hey, I'm looking for someone that is like this.
But turn up the beat, girl, and a homie you can toast and bring out Ciroc, cause I rock the East Coast.
I'm not surprised Watson served up Rhapsody because that's exactly what I wanted without knowing I wanted it.
All right, that's exactly the Holy Grail right there. There he was having this opportunity. In about 10 days' time, we were able to process the social listening and social histories of 1,000 artists for him and pick someone that he fell in love with, and they made a great song. So the last piece I want to show you is a really, really interesting piece. Now we're talking about AI actually in the studio, helping in the composition process, helping in the production process itself, not just intersecting with audiences, not just casting talent, but actually in the process of making the music. And this is a project that came to Spotify last year from a really cool tech team at Sony Music who were working on with an algorithm they built called Flow Machines. And they made this album called Hello World, which is on Spotify. If you want to listen to it, open your app right now, go to search, hit the camera, and snap that code, and you'll have a copy of it. But this song, this first song, which is called Hello Shadow, is a composition that was written by Stromae and artificial intelligence. And so there's a whole bunch of different artists on this album working in different genres, trying to do different things. But what happened to them is that the Flow Machines protocol gave them so many more choices, made the experience so much richer that they were able to get to a much faster and greater result. What we see artificial intelligence doing in our world is turning the opportunities for creators into much bigger and more powerful opportunities themselves. So this is what it felt like in the studio when they did that work.
Quand on invente une mélodie, on doit avoir des automatismes. Et là, ça empêche d'en avoir.
C'est explosif, ça décuple la créativité. On a vraiment l'impression d'être avec une troisième personne, avec qui on travaille.
Retire cette croche-là.
On sent que c'est des mélodies qui n'ont pas été pensées par un cerveau humain.
C'est le même passage contre la musique organique et la musique électronique, quoi. Enfin, c'est une espèce de gap. Demain, c'est sûr, on fera tous de la musique comme ça, en fait.
Flow Machines definitely does some things where you're like, wow, what was that?
But it will give you things which you would never have done yourself, which is interesting. So the main thing is the fact that it writes you new notes, but you give it this audio and somehow, I don't know how, it matches it to this stuff that is really unusual, but also is very dependent on what you give it.
So in closing, the thing I'd like to say about our experience with artificial intelligence is that we don't see it as the existential threat. We see it as an opportunity to make artists better, to give them more choices, to create a better environment for more artists to monetize their art. And this idea about digital is good and love is great is exactly where we think this all comes together, because it's without the human component of all this that none of this great art and creativity gets made. So thank you very much.